You are back with me in the C Space Studio here at CES 2023. I am James Kotecki, and joining me is Steve Bagdasarian, EVP Growth, Comscore. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it being here.
So Steve, let's set the table for folks who don't know, or what is Comscore? What does the brand mean as we head into 2023?
Yeah, so Comscore, we are a leading measurement provider for really the future of media consumption across omni-channel devices and environments.
So give me some sense of the scope of that. Like how much, however you might define that, like how much are you measuring, how much can you measure? Can you put some numbers on that to kind of ground us?
Comscore, we're a unique measurement provider in the space of TV and digital. Our suite of services is based on one unique methodology, which is, I think, a special feature as it relates to the ecosystem of TV measurement and digital measurement, and obviously the converged aspect of that as we're seeing, from a consumer perspective.
Yeah.
We look at billions and billions and billions of signals a day. We ingest incredible amounts of data to be able to produce, highly accurate currency-grade measurement solutions and products for marketers and advertisers to ensure that their spend and their investment strategies continue to hit the results that they need.
And you say one methodology, and I assume that's very important because you're talking about something that you can trust across different types of assets that you're measuring.
Correct, and it's all based around big data processing and big data management, so there's an incredible amount of reliance and accuracy associated with that methodology.
So what are you doing here at CES?
Plenty of partners to meet with here. The media landscape is obviously continuously transforming. It's a great place for us to be able to get in front of a variety of different partners and really start to challenge some conversations about how we think media spend is going to be needed to be measured in this year. And
do you have a kind of a specific message for those conversations, a top line, headline, something that you feel like you need these partners to know as they're heading into 2023?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, media is going to continue to be this critical necessity for growth across all brands going into this year. And with the economic conditions the way they are today, there needs to be a reliance and support in terms of being able to make the justifications appropriate across the board.
Yeah.
And we're pushing that.
How do you think about this idea of being a trust provider and a trusted measurement, a centralized source of trusted measurement, as we look into a Web3 era, where terms like trustless are thrown out there, or this idea of decentralized trust, or not needing to trust any specific entity? How do you think about those two worlds kind of converging, or how do you think about that?
It's a great question. I mean, look, the reality is that there has to be a level of neutrality that exists somewhere in the market to be able to provide an objective view of were decisions made in the right way, was the data presented in the right way, and I think that's really the obligation as we see measurement and the evolution of measurement. So there's no question, the world's going to get more involved, we're going to advance to a more Web3 based digital economy, but there's always going to be a need for an aspect of measurement as that truth set to be able to validate, otherwise things can spiral in a lot of different directions.
Well, let's talk about some trends. I mean, obviously you could pull out so many different things here, but are there any things as you think about the ways that consumers are consuming content that are changing or notable to you as you look at some of the data sources that you have?
Yeah, I mean, look, the role of video, right? The role of omni-channel consumers and connected devices are changing the landscape of content consumption across the board. I think the filter that we put through everything on our side as we think about the advancement and the strategy as it relates to our business is really around the role of measurement infrastructure. What's the role of third-party measurement in a first-party world? Role of measurement, and then the second piece of it is interoperability. We have to be fast, easy, and nimble to be able to facilitate all the requirements associated with being able to provide currency-grade measurement. And the last one is the future is addressable. There is a desire for more products and services that can be able to lean into that world. And as consumers are getting more connected, as we're starting to see the convergence of media across all devices, those three things have to be ultimately the themes that we base what our future looks like.
Obviously, the devices have driven a lot of this, right? Just the availability of the growth and the availability of smartphones and screens everywhere and the ubiquity of that. Are there other kinds of devices or technologies that you see on the horizon that you're paying attention to as places where some of this attention is going to go?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, each device is just a different delivery mechanism. I think the Internet of Things, right, continues to be something that will proliferate. I think the reality and the rise of gaming is something, and the different devices that are associated with that will continue to show new areas.
And do you measure gaming?
We do measure gaming. We do measure gaming, and in fact, it's one of the most critical areas for us to continue to focus on as we see the rise of the convergence of not only just the consumption of media through gaming, but also just the aspect of how our advertisers are looking for the performance that they need out of those areas.
Yeah. Do you have you run across a trend recently or a data point that felt somewhat counterintuitive to you? Like, I can't believe consumers are doing this or advertisers are achieving success with that.
You know, it's funny. I have 3 boys, so I can empathize with it. But it's still crazy to me the rise of just gaming as an entertainment vehicle for consumption, and we're seeing just more and more of that.
You mean watching other people play
watching
games.
other people play, right? And
My
seeing
son
the rise
does
of
that too.
And you know, I can totally empathize with it because I see it firsthand. But you know, it's a major content category that's going to continue to evolve, and I think it's one that we all have to pay attention to.
Does it feel like all of this is on a pretty defined track to continue to evolve throughout 2023, or are there any potential curveballs, revolutions, things that could actually disrupt? Because I mean, when we talk about these trends, and I've been hosting these for 6 years, you know, the trend is obviously more of what we're talking about, right? I can't believe the growth that we're seeing along these trajectories. Do you see that to continue, or is there anything on the horizon that might kind of derail or disrupt it in interesting ways?
It's a great question. My gut says it continues to proliferate at the speed that it is. I think the only thing that might surprise us is how fast it continues to compound on itself. And become even more aware. And I look at that, you know, across a variety of different trends. But again, you know, to reemphasize, we're more connected as we ever have been as a consumer. The device proliferation is becoming more accessible. Different sets of behaviors are being exhibited out of that. I think the speed by which we are going to see ourselves continue to advance as a consumer base, and all the relevant measurement requirements, all the relevant technology requirements are going to continue to compound on themselves in that direction.
Going through the pandemic, people noted obviously massive changes, and they said, you know, we're making 10 years of progress in 1 year, you know, in certain of these areas in terms of consumption of content. Maybe now some of that has backed off somewhat. What do you see coming out of the pandemic as far as the future of consumption, the future of how people interact with these devices? Do you see any kind of, did that really change anything, or did that just kind of move the ball a little bit down the field?
I think in certain pockets it absolutely advanced things dramatically. I think in general it forced a more digitally native environment in consumer. I think it brought a level of digital maturity to different areas of the you know, kind of the consumer landscape that might have been lacking or lagging. I think we're going to continue to see it move in that particular direction, but you know, the pandemic's definitely, it's shifted now, right? We don't have as much time to consume. We're seeing those things exhibit themselves as it relates to AVOD and SVOD and subscription-based strategies. The churn mentality, right? Like all of these things are starting to show forth as a different flavor of what we are, but I think in general the theme is we are more connected and digitally native than we have been before due to the time that we had, you know, when we were locked up.
Do you have any high-level theories on the streaming wars and kind of where that's going to shake out in the next year or so?
I don't have a lot of opinions about that at the moment. What I'd say is that we are in place to help all of those entities begin to justify what their business models need to look like going forward.
Be a lover, not a fighter. Why
exactly.
Not? That's what Comscore should do. Is there something outside your industry that inspires you and the team that you work with to innovate?
Yeah. Look, I think measurement's it's a hard business, and it's becoming more fragmented, more convoluted. And each advertiser, you know, has a different challenge that they're trying to face across the board, and each seller of media has a different challenge. The natural tendency towards curiosity is I think something that ultimately fuels what we are, and ultimately that is something we try to base our culture around. We try to find like-minded people that are just intensely curious about all the different aspects of what they experience here on the day-to-day.
Well, thanks for sharing some of your curiosity here with us.
Awesome.
I really appreciate it. Steve Bagdasarian, Comscore, thanks so much for joining us here in the C Space Studio. Well, please keep it right here because more great conversations are on the way. I'm James Kotecki. This is CES 2023 and the C Space Studio, sponsored by Salesforce.